The National Weather Service has issued a severe weather advisory for the Copper River Basin starting at 9:09 a.m. Alaska Standard Time Saturday, December 24, 2022. Wind chill advisory remains in effect until noon Alaska Standard Time Sunday, December 25, 2022. Very cold wind chills expected. Wind chills as low as 25 to 40 below zero with localized colder wind chills as low as 50 below possible. Impacts. The dangerously cold wind chills could cause frostbite on exposed skin in as little as 5 minutes. This advisory affects residents of the Copper River Basin, including the cities of Glen Allen, Eureka, McCartan.
Merry Christmas, everyone. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and sun won't be up for at least 2 hours. But I need to get up and stoke the fire. But I thought I'd show you how cold it is in here, that this guy is snuggled up against me and buried underneath all the blankets on the bed because it's absolutely freezing in here. But I need to get up and stoke the fire. So I'm going to throw on some additional layers, and I'll see you guys downstairs. Just to give you an example of how cold it actually is in the cabin, this is a cup of water that was left sitting out on the counter last night, and it's absolutely a block of ice. You can see the ice in there. That's water in there. And a better example, this is my water jug, and you can see ice crystals here. This is frozen solid. Do you see that? Absolutely frozen. Well, it looks like it's just frozen around the edges because I can see an air bubble in there. But that's how cold it is. It's actually 23 degrees in here right now. The Berkey's frozen, which means I don't have any water. I'm sure my water jugs are frozen too because they've been sitting on the floor, which is the coldest area of the cabin. But I'm going to get a fire started, let the cabin warm up a bit. Once I get the cabin a little bit warmer, then I'm going to go ahead and film. Actually, I'm going to film my Christmas video this morning, but I got to get it warmer in the cabin. So, Merry Christmas. On Saturday, it was so cold in here that the only thing I was able to do was film and edit my Christmas video. But even though I was sitting right in front of the wood stove while filming, you could literally see my breath. It was that cold. But despite that, it wasn't as cold as it was yesterday. So yesterday when I woke up, it was 19 degrees in the cabin, and overnight, you know, I would wake up to find Kenai shivering next to me, even though we were under the blankets. And part of the reason was the electric blanket had gone out on the bed, and he had gotten out a couple of times and what have you. But I think part of it was he was trying to drink his water out of his water bowl, and it had frozen solid, just like all the other water in the cabin had. Even the water next to the wood stove, I have about 30 gallons in there, and it had frozen over as well. Not solid, but there was a layer of ice on top of it. So luckily I had some water in the kettle that you can see behind me, and that's how I was able to at least make sure that we had some drinking water. Him being cold made me think about other animals, domestic pets is what I'm talking about, not wildlife. I'm not talking about bears and moose and things that are meant to be outside. I'm talking about our pets, Kenai and your dogs and cat, whatever other animals you have. And we think about taking precautions for ourselves and keeping our homes warm. There comes a point in time where you need to take your pets into consideration as well. And, that might mean putting a sweater on them or a jacket, booties on their feet when they go out in the wintertime, something to help provide them a layer of extra insulation and warmth. Luckily for me, I was able to get Kenai under the blankets with me and keep him as warm as I could that way. I know there are people that have dogs that just love to be outside. Hopefully during this whole time, you're providing some extra bedding for them or, insulation in their dog houses. Some of the other things that I got to thinking about was prepping is nothing new to me. It's something that I've always done, something that I've always been a gearhead about. And one of the things that I have, put to use over the years is a foot warmer like this. Now this one is cast iron and you just fill it up with hot coals. You don't want burning wood in there. And you put the coals in and then the heat radiates up through this grate. And you can literally set your feet right on top of this and warm your feet. And if you throw a big blanket over you to help trap some of that heat in, that can warm you up. And I used to keep extra bags of charcoal around my home in Colorado for just such an occasion. If you're in an extreme weather condition like this, as I know most of the nation was, if your means of heating your home is reliant upon the electricity and the electricity goes out, even if you have a gas furnace, chances are that you can't use it because it probably has an electronic pilot light on it, or the fan itself is dependent upon electricity. So hopefully you guys have maybe a Mr. Buddy heater or something like that. You can't use a space heater again if the electricity has gone out. I think in Alaska, someone had told me early on in the channel that Alaska has a law that you have to have 2 alternate sources of heat for your home. In my case, I have the oil burner, and then the backup heat would typically be the wood stove, or you could have a wood stove and then have a propane heater, something that's not going to be dependent upon the electricity. And the wood stove has done a fairly decent job of keeping the cabin at least at a temperature that I could survive in. It's not comfortable in here. Right now it's about 40, 44 degrees in here, but that's because I have consistently every 2 hours been filling up the wood stove. In fact, I've depleted my wood pile outside significantly. It's not gone, the one in front of the cabin, but I burnt through way more wood in this weekend than I ever thought I would in an entire weekend. And I still have another 5 cords or so stacked up in the woodshed itself. So I still have plenty of wood. I hope you have other ways of staying warm during these cold months. In the news, there's been things about rolling power outages. I know some of the major power stations in the nation have had some trouble in the last couple weeks. I don't really know the details behind those, but I do know that, your safety means a lot to me. I do honestly care about each and every one of you, and I hope that you're doing things to keep yourselves safe and warm during these times. I also want to talk about some of the other things that I have been doing around the cabin, and I want to talk about the oil because I know somebody's probably already left a comment down below about, I can't believe you let yourself run out of oil. Okay, well, let's back this up a little bit. Last year, before I had the roof replaced on the cabin, the roof that was up there was not very insulating and it was leaking. And despite that, I barely used my oil burner at all. I had that oil burner reinstalled after having it fixed on November 15th. I had a full tank of oil at that point. I burned it for a full 30 days and then had the tank topped off. When they topped it off last December, they only put 50 gallons in it. And when my contractor was out here this summer and he took a look inside the tank, there was about 200 gallons left after burning it for the rest of the winter, though I didn't use the oil burner that much. And so my thought going into this winter was I wouldn't be using it that much either. I have a new roof put on with R38 insulation in there, and I thought, that I would be fine. And I knew that I need to burn through all that oil because I need to move the tank next summer. And that's one of the reasons we didn't do it this summer, was the tank was too heavy because of the approximate 200 gallons of fuel in there. So I knew that I was going to be burning through that oil this winter. I just didn't think it was going to be happening as quickly as it did. So what I'm finding is that the cabin is hit and miss on how it's staying warm. For one thing is the wind sucked a lot of heat out of this cabin. And so I've done some extra things to try to prevent that. And one of those is that I put the foam insulation up in the windows, which I hadn't done earlier because the temperatures hadn't been that cold outside. So I kind of dragged my feet on that one. But now the foam insulation is up in the windows. The bubble wrap did a great job up until the temperatures dropped well below zero and are staying there. And then at that point, you can't tell the difference, basically, whether you have the bubble wrap in the windows or not. I also had intended to add some additional weather stripping around the doors because I could see light bleeding in from around the doors, but this can't be installed unless it's 40 degrees outside. So that didn't work. So I hung some blankets and curtains up over the doors and then made some sandbags to go down along the threshold. And then wherever there was still an opening, I would just put, whatever I could, big towels, blankets, what have you, to kind of create some resistance for any air that would be trying to come into the cabin. I am using the fan, which helps to circulate the air in the cabin. But I guess the one point I'm making about this is that oil burner, even though I'm not a big fan of it, it does at least its job of maintaining a minimum of 50 degrees in the cabin. I guess I was a little bit overzealous on how heavy-handed I was with the oil burner. And had I looked up what the consumption rate was, I probably would have not been so heavy-handed on that thermostat. But if you're running it at high capacity, it burns through basically a gallon every 10 hours. That means that a tank, because those tanks only hold about 300 gallons, is going to last you about 2 weeks. And so I'm lucky that it lasted as long as it did. And I did try to call out Crowley Fuels yesterday, but because, all of this took place over the holiday weekend, my assumption is that they were closed yesterday due to the holiday falling on the weekend. And so I did not get an answer. And so I'm going to go ahead and give them a call now and see if I can get them to come out and provide me a delivery. The problem is that they don't always service this area that I live in. I think if I remember correctly, that they're out either once every other week or once a month in this area. And I could be a month away from the next fill up, or I could be a couple weeks away from a fill up. But I'm going to go ahead and give them a call now and see if I can get an oil delivery scheduled.
Crowley Fuels.
Yes, hi. I'd like to get a fuel oil delivery made.
Where are you located?
I'm located at...
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm afraid I don't have good news for you. We won't be out in that area until tomorrow.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness that they're able to come out tomorrow. Like, honestly, I was sweating bullets when he said, I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm afraid I don't have good news for you.
I'm sorry, what?
We won't be out in that area until...
Oh, yeah, I'm sweating bullets. Thank goodness they are coming out tomorrow. I mean, to only have to go one more day with it being chilly in the cabin. Right now, I think it is... Yeah, it's 48 degrees in here right now. It's bearable. It's still cold, but it's bearable. Regardless of where you're at and regardless of how well you think you're prepared, there's always going to be the opportunity to be a little bit more proactive and to prepare a little bit more and to take, all of your household, including your pets, into consideration when you're prepping for, potential life-changing events. So as I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, please stay safe out there. Please take care of yourself. Please be proactive in preparing for, any event that could come your way. And with that, I'm going to leave you for today. I will be back this weekend with another video. And I do want to thank you for joining me today. Please be sure to check out some of these videos here and stick around for some outtakes as well. Good morning, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Oh my God, it's so cold in the cabin. Good morning. I can't talk without there being. I don't know what that means. But right now it's 48 degrees in here. And so, it's bearable. It's still cold, but it's bearable. And, one of the other things is like that I was going to put some extra my brain just went blank. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.